This is Valvenor. It is not a beautiful place, but for the time being, it seems to be unknown to the Deadwalker army. This village has known better days. Before the war, it was popular among the rich hunters who came to enjoy the ample game in the swamps. Today, the only visitors are refugees, who are sadly too numerous for the scant resources of the village. A small healing house provides comfort and succor to the injured. The knight is quite fond of Mirana, the healer who runs the place. Does the mercenaries see the building opposite? It was once an inn, but it is now the residence of the steward, the man now in charge of the village.
This is a very large inn, considering the size of the village. There must have been many visitors before the war.
With any luck, we might get to sleep in a real bed tonight. How come you talk that way? Always in the third person.
The way people speak is different from one place to another, and I am from another place. The knight's people are a warrior tribe from Algandar, and he is proud of them.
Where can I find the steward?
As the knight said, the steward is in the old inn, the big building in the middle of the village.
What does the steward want with me?
The captain has offered the services of the freeborn blades to the steward. The steward must have orders for the mercenary.
Shit. I'm gonna get stuck being this guy's errand boy. Damn! I knew I should have gone with the rest of the company. What can you tell me about this backwater town?
This village is a modest one, and its reserves are almost gone. Its only strength is its isolation in these swamps, but that is also its greatest weakness.
I already figured it was some kind of shithole.
That the refugees and the villagers must live together is difficult, and the situation is worsened by there not being enough food. The swamp offers protection against the Deadwalkers, but it also harbors many dangers. Its creatures often attack the village. When the knight and the elf are not there to defend the walls, the watch often leave them unguarded. Shameless.
I'm going. Sybil, can I talk to you?
Yes?
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
What do you want to know?
So Alas is your father?
Yes. And yes, he is the leader of the Red Scribes.
That's handy for you.
You are so predictable. Daddy's little girl can do whatever she wants, right? Don't fool yourself. I'm endlessly having to prove myself more than any other scribe. My father doesn't treat me better than the others, and I expect no less from him.
At least that explains why you look like you just stepped out of a library. I guess he encourages you?
Yes, of course. But I'm big enough to make my own choices. Knowledge fascinates me, and I suppose it would have been like that whoever my father was.
Can you tell me more about your order?
Of course. The Red Scribes are an order of sages. Our quest is to find the answers to all the great mysteries of this world.
And so you know about magic?
We study magic from an essentially theoretical viewpoint, but we're not an order of magicians. Even though some of us practice healing magic, but we have nothing to do with the destructive power magic used by the Lords of the Frozen Shadows, and we know very little about that domain, unfortunately.
I see. But that doesn't mean you can't research it, huh?
Obviously, especially now. Any knowledge which would help us turn this war around would be helpful. But according to our archives, we were already studying magic more than 5 centuries ago.
Oh, really? What do you know about the Ice Lords?
As much as it is possible to know without having met them. In some ways, they're quite fascinating, even though the term might seem inappropriate.
Perfect. How do we kill him?
If I knew that, do you think I would keep it to myself? But I can tell you this, we do believe it's possible. We know that there are 7 lords. Black Storm, Lady Crystal, Marshal Winters, the White Lady, Lord Blackfrost, the Chiller, and the Ice Duchess.
Everybody knows that. We've had our asses kicked by them enough.
For sure. But in the past, there were more of them. Some scrolls talked of 9 or a dozen, even of 30 lords. Of course it's confusing. And I doubt they would have freely given the information of how to kill one of them. But you can bet that some of them have died. We just have to discover how.
Where did they come from?
Most people believe that the Lords appeared recently, at the beginning of the war. But I have found certain scrolls that lead me to believe they have been around more than 300 years. They are originally from a region far to the north of Vertiel. For a long time, they remained there. The beginning of their conquest is quite recent. We all think that the war started 10 years ago, but in fact, it is much longer, maybe even the last century. It took them a long time to escape from their region of origin. The dwarf kingdoms were in their way, and they put up a fight.
You had me going there for a moment. I'm sorry, but dwarves? Save it for the children.
But you're wrong. The dwarves did exist, but the Ice Lords exterminated them.
Right. And I bet they also massacred all those poor dragons and goblins.
You know that dragons and goblins don't exist. You're impossible.
Do they have any weaknesses that we could exploit?
Not that I know of. All of the Ice Lords are powerful sorcerers. They are far more powerful than all the other magicians. They have an unlimited army. If they have a weakness, it's not that.
But in spite of all of this, you think there is something?
I do. We often imagine the Ice Lords as a vast megalithic power. But that's not true. In fact, they desperately hunger for power. Just because they pooled their powers to create the Deadwalker army doesn't mean they like each other. Their balance of power is precarious. As soon as they are done with destroying Vertiel, they'll probably start killing each other.
Sure, but that doesn't help us much if we have to wait until they're done.
Perhaps there is a way to stir up the tensions between them. Even if for the moment, I can't think how.
Let's change the subject. Do you know what happened to me in the temple?
I'm still searching for an explanation. Something must have gone wrong during the ritual.
Or what was the god's damn ritual supposed to do?
The Red Scribes have always had quite limited magical skills. I believe that the ritual was meant to increase their magical powers to try and find a way of combating the Ice Lords. But instead of channeling pure energy into each of the scribes, the ritual called forth a conscience that settled in you.
Your father called it a demon. How come I got stuck with it?
A demon? That reminds me of the old text, but I couldn't say if that's what it is. You were standing right there, so that force flowed into you. It could have been my father, or any of us, I guess.
Well, that's just great. What do I do now?
I would dearly like to help you. But even though I have searched through all the texts I have here, I can find no reference to anything like this experience of yours, at least for now. But until we have found out more, you must try to fight against this thing. Do not allow it to get comfortable. We don't know what its intentions are or how powerful it is. It could be dangerous for you.
So then, any result from the study of all these creatures of the swamps?
I have discovered a few things about the small chrysalids. They are much faster, but it seems that they can only attack from close up, using their pinchers. I also noticed that the medium-sized chrysalids were slower than small ones, but they, however, can fire tiny projectiles. The sickles have a power that depends on their growth. The biggest ones are the most dangerous. Up close, their attacks can be frenetic and extremely dangerous. They can also leap onto their prey.
So then, any result from the study of all these...
Well, I'd really like to meet some of these creatures who live here. But for now...
So then, any result from the study of all these creatures of the swamps?
Well,
What can you tell me about the World Heart?
Many of the people on Vertiel believe that the World Heart is just a myth. There are many different beliefs from one region to another, but most of them have more in common than not.
The World Heart is where life and prosperity are born. I've already heard that crap.
If we were to imagine Vertiel as a living being, the World Heart is exactly what it sounds like, the heart of the world. It's what keeps the world alive. It beats, and Vertiel lives from its energy. If you wish, I can try to learn more about it. Come back and see me in a few days.
We need to talk about your combat style.
What do you want me to do?
In fact, you fight just great. Don't change a thing.
All right.
It's on account of that Nigella, ain't it? I take one look at her, and suddenly it's the end of the world.
Are you okay?
Here we go. Another one of these hick refugees. There's nothing for you here.
Call me a hick one more time, and I'll be using your face as an anvil.
Let's all remain calm, shall we? Please forgive my error. With all this commotion and all the thankless tasks I find myself confronted with, I often find my attention to detail slips. So, what can I do for you?
I need more info about Valvanor.
And you have decided that I have a sympathetic face. It's the story of my life. Talent worthy of a king's ransom, but surrounded by cretins who only seek that which is free.
What can you tell me about the steward?
Oh, don't expect me to say anything bad about Bertolf Chambriad. I'm not always in agreement with him, but I can see that he knows his business. And he keeps the village relatively safe.
It's not often you see an elf blending in with other cultures. Are there many of you here in Valvanor?
To my knowledge, I was the only one. That is, until Prince Arundel and his acolyte arrived. Does that pose a problem for you?
Not at all.
Well, it does for me. His Majesty the Prince of Imbeciles is going to bring us nothing but trouble.
Do you know the woman who runs the healing house?
Oh, but of course. She's all one hears about lately. Everyone here will tell you that she's a courageous woman, fighting a noble battle. Everyone but me. The woman's insane. There are already far too many mouths to feed in this camp. Clearly, she's fully aware of this, yet she stubbornly insists on making things worse.
And the Red Scribes? Know anything about them?
Oh, certainly. A boring bunch of fusspots, spreading science and preaching the good word while never suspecting that anyone might see through their little game.
Our game? Well, pray tell. Give us the details. Please, give us the benefit of your extensive knowledge.
I don't pretend to know about all their little plots. I spend very little time with them, and frankly, I couldn't possibly care less about them. But I am fully aware that pretty speeches serve no better purpose than manipulating minds. They're nothing more than noisy masks behind which hides a reality that is far uglier. The more the melody is sweet, the better it distracts you. And is there anything more disgustingly melodious than the discourse of a red scribe?
When it comes to disgusting discourse, you seem to be something of an expert.
Let's talk about something else. Show me what you have for sale.
Gold. So vulgar to work with. So wonderful to own.
Is our best defense. Happily, the wildlife are just as keen on attacking the Deadwalkers as they are the villagers. But the situation here in Valvanor grows worse daily. And each new wave of refugees increases the risk of drawing unwanted attention to this jungle.
No Ice Lord scouts who find this village will ever escape to tell the tale. Of that, I can assure you. Also, my men are reinforcing your defenses. Forgive me for saying, but you have some serious weak points. Especially the defenses around that refugee camp of yours.
The arrival of the Freeborn Blades and the Red Scribes has greatly improved our chances of survival, Captain. Believe me when I say that we are most grateful to have you with us. Needless to say, your men and the Red Scribes are welcome and free to go where they will. But as for any other newcomers, our gates are closed. You must understand that our food stores are as limited as our abilities to defend our village. Until you arrived, we had but one person who was even vaguely capable of treating our injured, and the case of Prince Orendil was completely beyond her skills. And there is this beast story, doubtless another fairy tale, the fruit of an alcohol-addled brain. Nonetheless, several of the Watch have gone missing. Something hidden in these swamps is causing these disappearances, but we cannot risk sacrificing any more of the few men remaining to us on sending patrols. Large groups entail moving chrysalids that are unmanageable. The others, quite simply, do not return.
Silence.
If I were to listen to everyone, I would need 10 times the number of men I have to verify the truth of every tale.
Enough. You must aid me to do this. I am not able to do that. Your endless wailings are unbearable.
In the name of... Vulcan?
But by the gods, man, what is...
This world is condemned. The cold hath invaded its ground, its souls, and its heart. Yet here you stand, weaving your limbs like fish taken from the water, miserably shuffling about to conserve the illusion of warmth and life, and not feel the passing of your last breath, while I must endure your wailings and lamentations. Pitiful.
Vulcan, stop this nonsense immediately.
It is not he who speaks.
All doth fall to ruin about you, yet you still bewail your loose bowels and vomitings. You cannot vanquish your dead walkers, no more than you can vanquish their necromancer masters. They draw their power from the very heart of the world. They drink it, they suckle it dry. Your only chance to cleanse what your own hath corrupted is to go to the World Heart and liberate it from its servitude.
The World Heart is a myth, a forgotten fairy tale, no more real than dragons or dwarves.
A myth. Continue hiding behind thy puny barricades, and thou wilt soon join thy myths and fairy tales.
Cease your pretense. I know you have returned to consciousness.
What the hell happened? I was just listening to the steward blabbing away with the captain, and then...
And then you lost control.
I don't know, it's like something in my head zapped me so it could use my mouth. But I was still there, still thinking what I was saying.
This is not the first time you have felt this presence manifest itself.
No. No, it's been... If it happens again a couple of days from now, they'll all start spitting and throwing rocks at me. Guess I'll have to watch out.
I fear that is the least of your worries. Obviously, you haven't understood. The thing that is inside you, it wishes you ill. There is not enough space inside you for two souls. That demon wants your body. It will control you more and more until it has replaced you completely.
Ha! Thou thinkest I crave the body of a mortal? I am a prisoner here. My place is in the World Heart.
It will not hesitate to lie to you, to tell you that which you wish to hear, so that you will allow it to consume you.
I never asked for this cage. I never asked to be forced to hear thy every thought. It is I who have been invaded.
It speaks to you. Do not listen to it. Cast it from you. If you do not resist, it will crush your soul.
Hey, take it easy. One day at a time, okay? I'm gonna take a walk.
I am busy, mercenary. Go do what you're getting paid for.
Mr. Vulcan, what brings you here?
The captain wants me to help your village. You got a job I can do?
With our shortages of food and fighting men, our worn-out equipment and the growing lines at the healing house, I cannot deny our village is sorely in need of help. Sadly, I fear that these are not the sort of problems you are used to dealing with, unless I'm much mistaken.
Maybe I'll surprise you. So what's the problem with the healing house?
Quite simply, Mirana cannot keep up. She spends every waking minute giving out supplies to the refugees and refuses to admit that she cannot help everyone. She thinks she's fooling me. I have heard rumors that her food stock is running low. Unsurprisingly, the crowds outside are becoming restless. I believe they wish to continue handing out our food reserves as though they were unlimited. This is not the case, and thus, it is not an option.
So, you want someone to put her down?
Why, I never suggested any such thing. I just wish she would see reason, for all our sakes. But I have asked nothing of you. I was merely answering your question.
Your guards... How can I put this? At first, I thought they were disobeying orders. Now I think maybe they don't even understand them. If you're stupid and incompetent, you should be digging turnips, not taking care of security.
You're beginning to worry me. Is it really that bad?
Are you kidding me? The state of their weapons is enough to make you cry. Maybe they'd be good for splitting logs.
Personally, I'm not capable of judging the aptitude of our sentries, but their poor results speak for themselves. Doubtless, you should share your observations with Mason, the chief of the watch. I should warn you, however, that he is of a somewhat stubborn nature.
Wouldn't be the first I've seen. I need the reports about this beast that attacked the villagers.
I fear I am unable to be of help. I'm still not entirely convinced that it even exists. All I know is that several villagers have vanished. One villager is at present in the doctor's care, following a supposed encounter with the said beast. These swamps are crawling with dangers. There is nothing to suggest anything out of the ordinary. The refugees are always inventing horror stories in an attempt to force us to open our gates and let them inside.
It might be worth checking it out. You said you lost one of your patrols, right?
That is so. You should speak with Randval. He was most anxious to go out and hunt the beast down, but we needed him here. Now that we have more able bodies to guard our gates, I imagine he would be keen to pick up the scent once more.
I've got a few questions I'd like to ask about this village.
I imagine there are few who are better placed than myself to answer them.
How come it's you that's running the show here?
What a question. Because, my friend, someone has to. You imagine I'm doing this for my amusement, perhaps? Doubtless you wish it was someone else. The chief of the watch has trouble organizing 3 peasants. Our dear apothecary is evidently keen to give succor to any and every poor soul who wanders into the healing house. And regardless of your reputation, the people of this village would never trust outsiders such as yourself, or even the Red Scribes. So yes, it is indeed I who command here. The one-time steward of the hunting lodge of Valvanor, now leader of this shithole.
Well, hell. Glad we got that cleared up. What can you tell me about the people of Valvanor?
Before the war, there were just a few families here. Hunters and craftsmen, mostly. These days, they survive as best they can, husbanding their animals and digging up the puny vegetables they've managed to grow. Few dare to venture outside the walls. These woods are fruitful, but more perilous than ever before, and most of these folk know nothing of arms.
But you've got your guards.
They hardly qualify as an armed militia. Of the few that remain, most are sturdy farmers whom we have entrusted with some kind of weapon. Most of the real fighters left the village as soon as war broke out. The others died while out on patrol. The only one left here with any real experience is Mason, the head of the guard. Sadly, the man is a walking beer keg, who could not give a dog's fart for what his men are about.
Who are all those refugees that you're keeping outside the walls?
The war with the Ice Lords has driven many from their homes and villages. Alas, it would seem that some of them found their way here. I have tried to accommodate as many as we can, and provide as much comfort as possible, but I fear we can do little more. We are reaching the end of our reserves, and relations between the refugees and the villagers are becoming strained.
The refugees can't all be dead weight. Some of them have got to be useful.
Oh, if only. Believe me, I would be the first to welcome them. These peasants have been fleeing from town to town and from camp to camp for months. The best and strongest of them perished in battles, somewhere along the way. I must deal with the leftovers. I put the biggest of them in the watch, but they are of little use.
The healing house. It's a pretty good thing for your village, huh?
If you say so. As time has gone by, the healing house has drawn refugees to the swamps in ever greater numbers, and dissuaded some malingerers from returning to their families. When it opened its doors a year ago, the sense of relief was palpable. It was run by a couple, an elf doctor and his apothecary wife, who clearly were no strangers to the healing arts. Thanks to them, we were spared many plagues. But as the war dragged on, the endless tide of refugees continued to flow through our gates until we could harbor no more. 6 months ago, our worst nightmares were fulfilled. Our elf doctor fell ill and died. Since then, Mirana has soldiered on without rest, alone. I do not know how much longer she can keep going. The refugees just keep on coming. And I fear that poor woman is beginning to crumble under the strain. It's not surprising.
I need a blacksmith. Do you have one here?
With none more qualified, I asked Asiel to take over the village forge. I suppose I should warn you, he's quite a tricky character. He has a huge ego and is stubborn as an ox. Before the war, he was a sort of artist. He crafted jewelry and sculptures from metal. Despite running the forge, one could hardly call him a blacksmith. But he's the only one here who had even the vaguest notion of how to repair a shovel or straighten a blade.
We'll talk again later.
The Order of the Freeborn Blades is of great repute, and the mercenary does honor to its name. The mercenary's powers are both astonishing and fascinating. The knight would like to duel with the mercenary, that he may judge the mercenary's strength.
Sure, I can never turn down a good fight. But maybe we should take it outside if we don't want to break everything in here.
The knight is honored, and bows to his adversary's wisdom.
Wait for me here, Sybil. I won't be long.
The knight hopes that his adversary will not hold back his blows.
Oh, you can count on it.
Has never before battled an adversary with such power, and he believes that he could be that which is needed to change the course of this war.
You fight pretty good yourself. Where did you learn your moves? Can't believe you learned to fight like that in this backwater.
The knight has traveled far and fought many battles. He has only lived in this village for a short time.
What are you doing in the middle of these swamps when you could be making a difference on the battlefield?
The knight has fought a great many battles, but he feels he can be more useful protecting those who have nothing left.
I have to go. I'm glad we could test each other's mettle. It was fun.
Before his adversary rushes off to fight other battles, the knight has a question for him. He wishes to know if the Freeborn Blades would like him to join them.
I'm not the one who decides who joins the company, but I can ask the captain for you.
He has thought long on it, and wishes it would be so.
Well, that's great. I'll ask him, but I can't promise you anything.
Greetings, mercenary. What can I do for you?
Can I have a look at your stock?
Vulcan, you must help me. The prince is dying.
Well, I'm happy to see that my talents as a doctor are finally being recognized.
There's no doubt an explosion would cure him of all his ills forever. But I was actually thinking about your connections with the Red Scribes. If you could speak to them, it would save me having the prince's death on my conscience.
I wouldn't exactly call myself a friend of theirs. But yeah, I can always give it a try. I need your expertise. Will you come with me?
Of course I will. Lead the way.
Relmar, you got a minute?
Yes?
I have a few questions I need to ask you. Elves are pretty rare. I haven't had the chance to talk to many. Can you tell me more about your people?
We are born in the trees, eat only seeds, and we spend all the livelong days singing.
I get the feeling you're fucking with me.
Perish the thought. Well, it's just that we aren't that different from you humans, despite what one hears. Our civilization is obviously a bit older, so we have had the time to learn from our mistakes. We don't really live in the same rhythm as you do. We move a little slower, and most of us are prone to having at least some respect for the past. This is the reason why we never destroy anything, that we prefer to build on top of things.
I've heard that you are immortal.
That joke has lived for 15 generations. I will never get tired of it. No, we're not immortal. We live long lives, though, much longer than you. We are resistant to poisons, rotten food, and toxic body odor, apparently. Unfortunately, these things do not make us immortal.
Don't elves ever make war?
That's an impression we like to give other people. The fact is, we do go to war, just never against each other. You must understand that, given our long lifetimes, battles are fairly futile. This may well be what has motivated the choices of our king concerning the Ice Lords. But we certainly know how to fight, and you'll see proof of that soon enough.
So it's the prince who gives the orders?
The word orders may not be the best one. We do not submit nor obey easily. Our kings are a reference, wise men who can point out the way. They tend to guide us rather than give us orders. But to answer your question, it is his father, the king, who is the leader of our people.
Who is the elf in the healing house? Is he really your prince?
He is Prince Arundel, the son of our king and heir to the Elven crown. Therefore, yes, he is our king.
How the hell did he end up here?
Prince Arundel led a detachment of the Elven army sent to harass the Deadwalkers. And when he reached Bastion, he fell into an ambush. I got wind of this trap, but by the time I arrived, it was too late. When I caught up to the prince, he was already wounded, and most of his soldiers were dead. Those who survived covered our retreat.
To here?
Yes. The route to Carolthas was too dangerous. I knew about this village and felt that it would be secure for at least a little while. As soon as he gets better, we shall leave for Carolthas. The remainder of the human and elven armies are gathering there. That is where the final stage of the war will be played out.
You seem different from the other elves I've met. Where are you from?
Really? I seem different. And yet I have such pointy ears. And if you really want to know, I actually come from one of the most ancient and noble houses that exists. I'm even linked to the royal family. But I can assure you that I am sufficiently far down the line of succession to be in no danger of being crowned. And my reputation is no help either.
As far as bad reputations go, every mercenary has got one, so we're used to it.
Let's just say that I got into enough trouble to eventually be considered a traitor to my people. When I got involved in the war, I disagreed with decisions made by the king. He thought that this war, like so many others, would not last. That the conquests won by the Ice Lords would melt away like all the human victories before them had. But I thought differently. Right from the start of hostilities, I began to requisition certain resources I felt necessary for those doing the fighting. More food, more weapons, better armor. When my people discovered what I'd done, I was declared an outlaw, and many saw me as a thief, which, in a manner of speaking, I guess I was.
You refused to obey the orders of your king, and you stole resources. No wonder they outlawed your ass.
Nonetheless, I was right. The Deadwalker army is a threat to us all, and not only the humans. If we had entered the war at the start, joining with the humans, we would have had a chance of defeating them. Today, we might already be too late. The human armies were decimated, and Virtual is in ruins. So perhaps they consider me a traitor, but my conscience is clear. It is my people who should be ashamed.
Do you know these swamps?
I've been in this area long enough to have explored a fair amount of it, actually. The region is rather inhospitable, which I suppose is a good thing under the present circumstances.
A good thing? You're out of your mind.
These swamps are a labyrinth. The Deadwalker scouts will never be autonomous enough to find their way to the village by themselves.
That means we should be fairly safe for the moment. At least until a general or an ice lord comes to town.
Except that recently, there has been a change in these swamplands. And I must admit that I no longer feel safe at all.
What do you mean?
Something is affecting the swamplands, corrupting the vegetation and the animals. And I have no idea what it is. But anything that grows or lives here could become a threat. So I strongly recommend that you watch where you put your feet.
Let's change the subject. So is the prince doing any better?
He is still in a coma. He doesn't seem much better, no.
I'm going to talk with the Red Scribes, Doctor. He might know of a cure.
Thank you.
Let's move on. Sybil, can I talk to you?
Yes?
I need your help. Come with me.
If you want.
It's frustrating. I feel completely useless here.
Mercenary.
I need your help. According to the villagers, there's a beast haunting the swamp, and it's attacked them several times.
I have heard about it, yes. And although I don't have any concrete information about the creature, there are some things that corroborate what they say. Even though we aren't very good at magic, we still feel it. And since we came to the swamp, we have all felt a powerful source nearby. The problem is that the source seems distorted, corrupted. Kind of like the one the Ice Lords use. Only not the same.
I hope for our sake you're right about that. Otherwise we're really up shit creek.
We are very certain of it. But this magic could very well have transformed one or more creatures in the swamp, making them more aggressive, bigger. Who knows? Something to frighten the villagers, in any case.
So you're telling me the thing is magic and corrupted. Brilliant. Just what I needed. Can I do something for you?
No, thank you. I don't need anything for the moment.
Tell me more about your order.
Before the war, our main objective in Creed was to collect and save all kinds of knowledge. We had a presence everywhere on the continent, and had chapters in every major city. We studied and preserved all possible sources of knowledge there. We also dispensed information and care. Because even though we're not the greatest magicians, our knowledge let us come to the aid of the wounded and the sick. I could of course relate our history in detail for hours and hours, but I doubt that is really what interests you.
With all the knowledge accumulated by your scribes, you must have learned something about the Ice Lords, surely.
We do indeed know some of their secrets, and a good part of their history.
Anything we could use to fight them?
We thought we'd found a chink in their powers that our ritual was supposed to let us exploit. But you saw the result.
That's one way of putting it.
That said, I'm beginning to wonder if we haven't involuntarily brought about the conditions for their end.
I'm not following you.
What you have within you could well turn out to be their doom. Even if I don't have the faintest idea of how or why. And unfortunately, as long as we don't know more about it, we also have to fear that it might lead to our doom, too.
I'll be going now. Do you have any idea how to wake the Elf Prince up?
Unfortunately, I don't. I think I've tried just about every remedy I know, but nothing works.
You said just about. I'm guessing that's not by chance?
It's true. There's one formula I haven't tried yet. An extremely powerful solution that requires a certain ingredient to make. An ingredient I don't have.
What is it?
A very virulent poison secreted by the chrysalid queen. But be careful you don't mix them up with the ones you usually see. I wanted to go looking for them myself, but the villagers stopped me. They say they're really dangerous. It seems they can be found along the road we took to get here. And apparently, they only come out at night.
I'll get you some. I'll be going now.
Yeah, who are you? One of them fucking mercenaries, right?
Fucking mercenary, yeah. Sounds about right.
You know what I call your lot? Ore blades. I got no time for ores.
Maybe if you were to do something about your bad breath, the whores would let you get close to them. You know, I'm just saying.
Go fuck yourself, Oreblade. Do I have to spill it out, or should I just put my boot in your arse? Clear off!
Would you just shut your stupid mouth for 2 seconds, please? The steward sent me here to help you.
Oh, that's all I need. Don't he think I got enough on my plate? Now he sends me some Oreblade from God's know where. Hey, as long as it ain't me is paying for you, hey? You want to help? Knock yourself out. I warn you, there's plenty to do.
Get to the point before I set your breath on fire.
All right, take it easy. No need to get nasty, eh? You want to help? Yes or no?
Keep talking.
Well, for a start, you could try and find one of my patrols that's gone missing. At first, I thought maybe one of those half-wits was sleeping it off under a tree somewhere. But it's been a while now. Maybe something bad happened to him in the swamp.
I guess I could go back and check.
What a coincidence. That's exactly what I was gonna ask you. After that, well, I suppose a pro like you, I guess you would be useful helping out the sentries. It won't be luxury. I don't know if you've seen what we're supposed to fight with, but, wow, if you can have a word with your quartermaster to see what he can do for my lads, you have my blessing. The benediction of a drunk. Better and better.
It's what all us fucking mercenaries dream of. All right, I'll see what I can do.
Right. We may be living in the arsehole of Virgil, but being armed like a bunch of tramps we can do without. And while you're at it, when you've been to the forge, you'll probably feel like letting off steam a bit. Why don't you go and take it out on my lads?
What do you mean?
Kick their arses so they can't sit down and get drunk instead of patrolling. And show them a couple of tricks while you're at it. A bit of training. Couldn't do no harm.
Your men can't afford to keep their thumbs in their asses. It's time to teach them how to use those weapons.
Knock yourself out, Payblade. I'll go and shake them awake. Couldn't have done better. I reckon the lesson is gonna leave a few marks this time. Have you got time to go again, while they're still warmed up?
I'll let them recover a little. Can't teach them if they're late.